others?
I've only heard Cameron. I'm not sure if others are planning on joining us. Paula's online.
One's online. Good.
Okay, Lisa.
I'm here.
Duly chastised and embarrassed. Okay.
There's one person talking too much.
Right in front of your eyes.
Sorry. All right, so excuse that. Motion to excuse that. Aaron, thank you. Steve, second. Any opposed to the motion to approve? Motion passed. Land recognition. It's Paulo, and he's not Aaron, but
He's on.
Well, it is there.
oh, sorry, Paulo. Do you have it with you?
I don't.
Okay. Oh, Aaron, looks like you're on.
The Sault Ste. Marie Public Library is a gathering place where community comes together to share stories, to explore new ideas, and to gain knowledge of the past. It is through this unique position in our community that we support and promote truth and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge with respect that we are in the Robertson-Huron Treaty Territory, that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and is known as Bawatang. Bawatang is the home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nations, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. The library and we as individuals have a deep desire to bring about change in our community and move forward together as diverse and inclusive peoples. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and are committed to moving forward in a spirit of reconciliation and respect.
Thanks. Number 2, any declaration of conflict with the business of today? Hearing none. Number 3, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Aaron? Jamie? Agenda's on the table. Any additions or others thing? Hearing none. Motion to approve the agenda. All in favor? Passed. Anyway, we have no delegations. Chair's report. Haven't got much for you. I haven't stood still long enough to write anything down this month. Italy was phenomenal. Yeah, I didn't even know where to start, but it was beautiful. So, library business. Matthew and I have kept in touch. Here we are. So that's all. Moving on. Number 6, consent agenda. Any questions or anything needs to be pulled? On the screen, nothing. There's no item to move, then I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Steve, second. Mike. Any opposed to the motion? Motion is passed. I'm going to pass. Let's go back. This brings us to this is arising in the minutes. Is there anything? No, I think. Okay. Number 9, none. Number 10, board development. Matthew.
Okay. So in lieu of having the board development last month, we assigned the board members a training on our News Academy online training module. And it was on understanding intellectual freedom and censorship. So hopefully everybody had an opportunity to go on there. A lot of people did acknowledge. Wayne was in Italy.
Thank you for the reminder. Okay. Can you send out a reminder or anything still outstanding? Sorry about that. Lost track of it.
So we just added this on here. If anybody wanted to discuss what they learned in intellectual freedom, is a very timely for us as well, because the policy committee also did a commitment statement for intellectual freedom following that as well. So I think it was a very useful training, and it's good for board to know how libraries stand on intellectual freedoms. I'll leave it open up to discussion for anybody who wants to say anything about the training.
Anybody want to jump in?
I did it a long time ago now, so, but I remember at the time, it was, very, very good. It was well done, the speaker was really good, and, yeah, it was
I'm in the same boat as you. I remember.
it was a while
walking away
ago, yeah.
okay, that's really good, and I want to remember that.
As long as you
But
absorb
at the
it
time, I
into
was,
your
yes,
consciousness.
that's so good, and
Yeah, I watched it too. The beginning of it was where she used examples of, but I think my overall thought by the end of it, I wish there'd been more Canadian content.
Yes,
That was
True,
yeah.
my regret. So that was my expectation going into it. And at the end, I, regretted that they hadn't added another 10 minutes.
yeah, that is unfortunate. A lot of the tenets in the American Library Association is carried over to the Canadian, but the Niche Academy that we subscribe to is an American company, and they have a lot of really great training, especially around libraries, because they're specific to library training. But some of their content is very American focused, and so I'm able to control what modules our staff take, or what's available to our staff. And so there's some things on intellectual freedom that will speak directly to amendment rights in the American Constitution. And so when I set up the Niche Academy for our staff, I actually exclude a lot of that stuff and try and tailor the training modules that are there for staff that are more universal concepts, so that we don't get bogged down into American content. So
Well, it's not to say that we're not gonna have those issues here.
it's true.
And it's also applied, carries over to collection development. The bias and some of the decisions we're making. So in that policy is being written, right? So it's quite hard.
So I can still do this content?
It's available. And if the board does enjoy or would like to do more development like that, I can look at the marketplace and I could add in additional training for the board going forward. Some things are webinar based like that this training was, where you have speakers. Others are more tutorial based, where you'll have some videos that are more instructional rather than like a speech or a TED Talk type style. And some of them will actually have quizzes in them as well. So the training can vary depending on what module is added. But I'm happy to add more marketplace for board members, and I have added a few here and there already. So you're welcome to take any. You all have accounts for the Niche Academy. You're welcome to take any of the ones that are on there right now. And I think I put some health and safety too. That's where you would have gone to do your accessibility training
Oh, yeah.
at the beginning. That's where when we have new board members and we're onboarding, we have the board orientation training on there. So it's something we subscribe to primarily for our staff, but we also make it available for onboarding volunteers, training for the board, and there's also a public aspect as well. So there's some tutorials that we've made available, especially around business, like hiring, firing, interviewing candidates. And then we've also informed the Chamber of Commerce that those are available to the public as well. So they've shared that resource out there.
I haven't detected any political undertones. You said it's made it, but it comes out of the States.
Yeah, It's
But-
American, but like First Amendment rights, they'll have a tutorial specific to that, and I won't bother with it because we have the Bill of Rights. We don't have constitution.
It's different, right? Yeah.
So it is unfortunate that there is not a lot of Canadian content. We're also able to create our own content for it as well, and we've done that for specific training that's forced here in Sault Ste. Marie. At this particular library, like Darkness and Recording Training, the one that we designed ourselves.
Comments, questions? New policies, for 11 services.
So the reason why we initially created this policy is it is in the accreditation process. One of the criteria is to have a children's services policy and teen and adult services policy. So that's why we initially added it to our strategic plan. It is an action item in the strategic plan. I had drafted it earlier last year, and we were hoping to have our tag group, some young adults who volunteer at the library, go through it, but unfortunately, that tag group's kind of petered out right now. We don't have the volunteers. So we decided as a committee to continue with the policy and put it out, and then we can have some youth input to it later when we review the policy.
Can we, I know I'm in the policy committee, didn't think of this though. Can we in September, October, put it through high school, through their civics and careers class, get them to look at it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it forces the teenagers to look at it because it's great.
If you have an in for those classes,
I do,
that would help.
well, unless I get transferred this month, I mean, who's to know, but at this point, I can.
Because I would love to have some input from youth into library services in general and policies. But
I would say we'll have to wait till September.
that's
Sure.
Could you connect with the mayor's youth advisory council? For the same reason,
Fair enough, thank you.
but maybe
Thank
part
you.
through them.
I hadn't considered that. That's a good idea.
You want comments on this right now?
Yeah.
Okay, under C, page 2, duty to report. And I'm just picking choosing here. But C immediately comes to attention. When library staff members have reasonable grounds to suspect that a child or youth is or may be in need of protection, they will advise the library CEO and together proper report. It's
You can't go to your boss. If you have an issue, you have to make.
You have-
That's where I'm going, yeah, and I think the intent is here, is that happens, but you can't absolve yourself of responsibility, so the order needs to be reversed.
Yeah.
You have to notify CS, and then
Yeah,
your responsibility is to notify your supervisor. You, Aaron and I know this
Yeah.
well,
I know.
right? Okay, so that's gotta be fixed.
So we'll modify it and we can approve the policy as amended.
You want a separate motion for each one of those?
Yeah.
Any other comments or thoughts on this before put a motion on the table? Hear none. Motion to approve teen services policy as amended. Mover, Lisa, second. Mike, any opposed to that motion? Hear none, motion's approved. Reflect to approve.
And so this next policy is a little bit different. We discussed at the policy committee commitment statements, because there's a number of commitment statements that we wish to make in our strategic plan. And there are some examples that the Ontario Library Service has where they have it broken down like we do, governance policies, business policies, operational policies, human resources policies. They also have a fifth category, which is commitment statements. And so after some discussion, the policy committee decided that it would be a good idea to also have a section on. And this is basically some values of the library written out and saying that we are committed to this. We're committed to intellectual freedom. We have a commitment from the Canadian Library Association back when it existed on intellectual freedom here on our wall. So that is one of our fundamental beliefs is in intellectual freedom, and we have written a support statement for that. And so we plan on doing a number of other ones. We're planning on one for IDEA, which is priorities. It's inclusivity, diversity, equity, accessibility. We also want to do one on truth and reconciliation. And so rather than have these buried in various policies, because we have about 60 policies, we wanted to have them isolated and separate, easy to find. So we've created a new category of policies, and they are commitment statements. The policy numbers are going to be CSs for them, and we have a number that we're going to be looking at, but we wanted to start off with intellectual freedom. And it's a very simple paragraph here, but it also points us to some of the commitment statements that have been made by other organizations that we support, including the Ontario Library Association. And so you can see a full breakdown on there. So that's kind of where we are.
Okay. Nice stuff there. So this has been vetted through them. What they created.
They created so they have their statement, and we're committed to it, and we're committed to the statements. So we endorse the Ontario Libraries Association's statement on it.
Okay. Questions? So, I need a motion. A motion to approve the commitment statement, policy CS01. I need a mover, Steve, and the seconder, Jamie. Any further comment? Any opposed to the motion? Motion passes.
Just a general update. We made a little bit of progress since the last meeting. We completed two new ones. We've got 5 new in progress. Overall, 9.7%, about 10% is complete, but we've made progress on over half this plan. We've got quite a number of ongoing items, and in progress items. Just throwing things to work. I think we're doing quite well, and even since I've done this report, I've been able to change the status in a couple other strategic plans. Outside, you'll see the lovely new bench out there. So City Carpentry came down, and they replaced that cost, but that was actually when I could renew the outside front with bench. So we are making progress, and that's continuing. And I have updated the tracking document. It is available for the board on the Google Drive, so at any point you want to go on there, all the action items that have been updated are highlighted in yellow. That's the last time I gave you an update. And so there'll be a number of ones besides these 7 that are indicated here in this report. You'll see a number of ongoing action items that's been acted on as well. So in June, we're going to be having another drag story time. You won't see any change of progress here, but that's because that's an ongoing item. So we've done it last year, we'll do it this year. And, so you'll see it's still in the updated, project document that we made, more progress on it to do it actually.
Makes sense. Any questions?
Can I ask, are the numbers on, in this pie chart, are they percentages or?
No, they're,
they're
actual
Mm,
numbers, so
okay,
each one represents a number of items.
so, you know, the snapshot, it always looks like heritage and culture is ahead of the other two. Is there a reason for that?
And it's, you also notice it has a lot of ongoing.
Oh, no, I didn't notice, sorry.
So, the yellow.
Oh, it's yellow is
Yellow is
ongoing, okay.
ongoing. So, for whatever reason, heritage and culture is very program heavy. And because it's program heavy, it's programs that we can offer multiple years, like the Doors Open would be one, right?
Yeah.
So it would be offered in multiple
Funny you should
years.
mention that one.
So it's going to be indicated in yellow. And
Okay.
it's just very heavy with programming. Whereas something like service excellence and idea are probably going to be more project heavy, where you're going to have a lot more completeds than you are going to have ongoings, because service excellence, the bench I mentioned, that would be one of those ones where it's like renewing the in front of the library and replacing the
Oh, I
public bench.
see, yeah, you're right. Okay.
That is one and done. We do it once and it's complete. And so you'll see more gray in some of the areas because they're more project based, and once the project's complete, it's done.
So then in heritage and culture, you've got ongoing and in progress. So what's the difference between ongoing and in progress?
In progress, I'll give you an example. Kevin and I, and previously Elise, had been working on archival procedure for receiving materials,
Right.
adding them to the archives, like handling those types of materials. That procedure, again, it's a project based.
Oh, all right.
Once the procedures are updated, that would be completed. But because it's not completed yet,
No,
we say it's in progress, but it will eventually switch over.
okay,
But ongoing is something that we've done and we can do again.
and keep doing, yeah, okay.
So if we offer a program, like financial literacy program, just because we offered one, we don't consider that a done
No,
thing.
no.
We can offer a financial literacy program again in
Next
November,
year, sure.
next year.
Yeah.
so on.
Okay, cool, thanks, Nancy, I understand.
When we do come to the end of the strategic plan, anything that's ongoing will be switched over to completed, and anything that's in progress will be switched over to complete.
Oh,
When
okay.
when we hit the last day of the strategic plan,
okay,
just so
Say that again, sorry.
So when, say the 5 years expires,
Yeah.
okay, anything that says ongoing, we will switch over to say that those were completed. Okay?
Good.
And anything that was in progress, we'll say that's in, because we never finished.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So then we'll be able to see what we did accomplish and what we didn't.
we're in year two.
Yes, we're in here.
Okay. So I see from all the different categories, only one item hasn't been started, so that tells me that.
We have one incomplete,
Okay.
and that is related to the downtown association.
Uh,
We didn't really, because of our location, we didn't really qualify to be part of it, but also it's been dissolved by.
so it's a pretty good barometer of where we're at. The progress we're making on the strat plan. One incomplete.
Or do that. There's lots of time to turn that blue into a different color.
There you go. Any other comments?
if I went to that document on Google Drive, would I be able to pick out what it is that the board is supposed to be accomplishing?
Yes,
Okay,
there's responsibility.
it
Most of the board is
colorful?
governance related, like policy.
Okay,
There
that
may,
was my thought,
there
yeah.
may be a few other things around advocacy.
Yeah.
But anything operational will fall on one of the managers.
Okay,
Hearing none, we'll move on to number 13, integrated library system switch.
So this is a fairly big report, they're kind of a big deal. In a previous meeting in March, we expressed our displeasure with the Library Corporation, which is the company that we are currently contracted with for our integrated library system. So some of you are familiar with it. Mike was here when we got TLC. Back when we got it, it was a fantastic system, but it really hasn't been keeping up with industry standards. And I was hesitant when it was first brought up, suggested that we switch systems because I was aware of how much it had previously cost us. Not sure if you remember, Mike, but
And how much work it was, yeah.
it was a lot of work.
But I think we were going from a system that was, like, your report mentions 14 years. I think at the time, it was more than a 14-year leap, was it not?
Yeah, we were also going from a command prompt
Yeah.
to,
It
two Windows.
was like working with DOS.
yeah, so it was a lot of.
I tried it.
I'll go back to my favorite hunting systems, DOS. Sorry, go on.
But Mike, I think we had a lot of committees and trying to decide.
We did, it was a lengthy process.
Yeah, the RFP took a long time to do, and then it was expensive.
Yeah, every vendor that we shortlisted came on site, I think. Yeah, it's quite a process.
So the actual cost, when I found the contract in my office, the actual cost was over $140,000 to switch ILS systems. And right now we're paying, I think Keegan got the amount for me.
25,000.
It's in there somewhere.
25.
It's up in there somewhere.
Second page, page 2.
Third page. Well, the original cost for installing TLC was $141,000. And the cost for switching now back to Dynex, for the CRC Dynex, is approximately $25,000. So we're looking at a reduced cost. It's been 14 years and it would cost 37% of the previous migration. So my initial concern moving was that we would have to find $150,000 somewhere, probably from our capital expenditure reserve fund, in order to be able to afford a move. And that's not getting into the amount of work that it would cost us to actually do them. In addition to that, TLC has been increasing their ongoing costs year over year. And it's costing us $45,000 this year for just having the system and for whatever little support they give us. If we were to switch to CRC Dynex, our estimated cost would be $27,000. So there's significant savings there, just in an annual cost of having one system over the other. And the system would pay for itself after 2 years. So by the third year, we're saving quite a bit of money, even with the migration costs. So for us, financially, it makes sense that we would switch systems because almost our entire software budget is going to supporting TLC with a little bit left over for our scheduling software. We've got really no budget for anything additional, doing online surveys or room bookings or anything like that. So financially, it makes sense to us. So now we want to look at the two different companies. It's like, are we going to be giving up anything in terms of service by switching systems? And looking at the two systems, I think if anything, we are actually going to be gaining a little bit by going from TLC to Cirrus Dynamics. I do have here in the report a few of the differences between them. So you can go through that. One of the main differences I noticed was that TLC has a children's catalog, and from what I can tell, TLC does not. TLC has a children's catalog, but Dynex does not. But that children's catalog has not changed since 2014, and it looks like it's from almost the 90s in terms of the graphics that are on it. It also has some benefits in terms of different modules that TLC doesn't have, like the Outreach module. We're interested in learning more about that because that may actually improve our visiting library service. But perhaps the best thing for us, and I know we just spent a lot of money on servers migrating the TLC to those servers, is the remote hosting, which will be done through the consortium and be hosted in Montreal. And they have somebody, the consortium has somebody dedicated to the system. And so if some library has an issue, they can go to this guy, he'll help them out, and he'll be that point person between consortium and the vendor, Cirrus Dynamics. And this will take a lot off of Michael. It'll free Michael up quite a bit. He can liaise with the consortium person, and then they can deal with the issue with actual the Cirrus Dynamics if there's issues. And I think it also improves our security regarding cybersecurity. Right now, we would be vulnerable to any attacks on our server, and Michael doesn't have the expertise to necessarily combat that. We've been using ABC Computers, a local company, to help us with our server switch and dealing with our servers. So we would be reliant on a third party anyway, but it would be good to have somebody who is an expert in the system and is knowledgeable with everything that is related to Cirrus Dynamics and have it hosted offsite. So we think that's a benefit. Although Mike, and we were hoping Kevin would be here, would be able to give us a little bit more on that in terms of hosting it offsite rather than.
Yeah, if you host it offsite, to your point, you get, I guess, that collective power and assigned responsibility to maintaining your systems and administering it, and you transfer the risk from a cyber perspective to them, because it's on them to keep it secure and safe and to manage it. So there's a risk to transfer of risk there, which lessens the burden on the library. From a user perspective, I mean, you're reliant on internet connection. So I mean, if your network connection or your local internet goes down for whatever reason, your catalog's down. But I mean, if you were probably to look at how often your internet goes down here, it's probably not that. That's it's something to consider. It's maybe something for everyone to take into account, but is it really a big factor? Hosted in Montreal, so your Canadian hosted content, which is good. I would just ask.
I'm going there. You got it?
Like you said, they were Canadian companies.
If it's hosted in Montreal, then it'll be hosted in Canadian servers, yeah. I mean, seriously, Dynix themselves are American, but I mean, a lot of American companies these days, in order to do business, have Canadian servers. I mean, we're part of a consortium. We're definitely not the first library to do this. So I mean, we've gone through these questions probably and these concerns with a lot of other libraries and past muster there. And I mean, to that point, my next question, only other concern is like patron data. If it's going to be out there in a cloud, in a web server, or in a SaaS, how do they wall that off from the rest of the consortium? I'm assuming
They are walled off.
yeah, I'm assuming they've had this question and gone through this multiple times since they've had other libraries join, but it's something just worth asking for peace of mind. So you have, if somebody does ask the question, where's my patron data? How's it secured? And at least have those answers.
Yeah, they did assure us that we wouldn't be able to see people's patron data, and they wouldn't be able to see ours. And if we do join, we would be the 30th library in the consortium.
Yeah, well, most likely we're just installed on our own instance, whatever server software and hardware they're using there. The other thing I would ask from a cybersecurity perspective and peace of mind is a SOC 2 report, SOC 2. It's a industry standard report that'll kind of attest to their cybersecurity standards. They've got certain standards in place to get the SOC 2 report. So I mean, like I said, most likely, I mean, they should be able to give that to you at the ready, and it's probably been part of everyone else's process as part of the consortium, but it's worth asking, keep in mind, it's worth having.
So you went through this process of switching ILSs before. What I'm asking of the board is to forego an RFP process. And I don't want to do the RFP process, I just want to join the consortium. Require board approval for something like that, especially with the costs associated with it. Mike, you're aware of how much time and resources we save by doing this, right? Do you think there's any value in going to an RFP process rather than joining the consortium?
Like to get your own instance, like,
Yeah.
I mean, RFP process where you'd open up to everyone else.
Yeah, where we'd open up to the other.
But then if you ended up going with Cersei Dynix, in that case, you'd have your own installation probably, which I don't know what their business model is these days. A lot of places will either offer you a on-site installation or a SaaS solution, or they'll just say we don't do on-site anymore, we just only do SaaS. But I don't know, like I don't even know how many vendors are out there, serious vendors.
TLC, seriously, I wouldn't want anything like Evergreen. There's a few other ones.
Like Polaris is gone, aren't they?
Are they gone now?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it used to be Seriously and Dynix used to be two separate companies.
Yeah. I remember when we did this initially, we had TLC, Cersei Dynix, and I think Polaris. I think there were 3 that we shortlisted.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're saving yourself a ton of time. You're getting like the price that Cersei Dynix is giving you here as part of the consortium. If you were to do this individually, it's going to be a lot higher because you're getting a discount, obviously, for being part of a group. So who knows if you did this but through an RFP, your prices might be comparable to what you're paying TLC or more, potentially. I think you're seeing a lot of the benefit here of joining a consortium in the pricing. But yeah, it's a lot of commitment to go through an RFP process, a lot of commitment from staff, it's a lot of commitment from you. You're gonna have committees, you're gonna have rounds of selection and shortlisting and back and forth. Like it's easily a 3-month or more long process and commitment for you and your staff.
So, thank you. I've been using Mike to try and convince you.
Yeah.
I know you are.
Questions, let's open up to questions. I have some, I can start if you want. There's 30, consortium makes a lot of sense for bulk buying. And who are the other 30? Can you tell us that? I didn't see them.
We're way bigger than some of these libraries.
We are.
nowadays.
Well, not necessarily
Oh,
bigger. Our community is bigger. So
Yeah,
the member
Oh,
library.
never mind, I found it.
yeah, some of them are
so-
county library systems.
Yeah, some of them are systems, right, or at least they have a lot of libraries. But they serve a population of approximately the same size as Sault Ste.
The second one is art gallery, that's not. art.
No, that's part of Bellevue. So it's
Oh.
Bellevue Public Library and John and Gary.
Of Rockville.
I think they would be excited to have us because we'd be a bit of a larger library in their group.
Have they reached out to any of them as far as,
Two of them so far.
like just a surprise cause, hidden cause, if you will? They're like, what's their experience?
Are
been
they
like?
happy?
Yeah, are they, yeah, what's the experience? They obviously 30 of them banded together.
I mean, I haven't done a reference check where I've called a bunch of these libraries. Certainly something I can do. But of the two libraries that I had talked to, they were quite happy with it. To be fair, one is the president of the consortium.
I saw his name in there, so, so he's selling it, right? He's
Well, I
the
mean,
president.
uh,
So does he work for that library? Or
he works for the library. So they're obviously at the cooperative public libraries, workplace. Woodstock. What I can tell you is we're not happy with TS.
Oh, yeah.
I hear you, that, and that's costing us money. So it kind of makes sense to go down this road, that still makes surprises.
Yeah.
And that's why it would be reaching out to a few more of them for the unexpected costs that don't come through and they're advertising. And overall, it's work, like I don't think this is a wrong avenue, but, to join a consortium, but buying the same service makes a lot of sense. Just want to be sure.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very significant change.
What's it look like for you if it's introduced?
We would be aiming for a November switchover, because that's around the time that a TLC contract ends. It will take some time to train staff. And then there'll be also public education that will be required as well, because they'll go on and our catalog will look different. But I mean, just looking at the catalogs, I like the symphony through CRC Dynex better than the TLC. Things like this, the stack results as a nice feature. So, but they're very, besides some of those things like the stack results, they are very similar in terms of their filtering and their search functions. So I don't think the public will have a very difficult time going from one. I mean, if anything, I think they might enjoy some of the aspects of the catalog that are.
As far as the training goes, that's part of the package.
Yeah, the training is being offered for free. The only caveat is if we were to RFP, we could probably put in that they have to send somebody here to train. Here, they're only going to do online trainings. So that's kind of.
That's the way, that's,
To be fair, that's the one.
Yeah.
yeah,
Your
exactly,
staff
yeah,
is
I'm not too concerned
I would
about.
say, right?
And then we'll try and do some train the trainers as well for people like Michael and some of the technical services and circulation staff, trained on how to do certain things, and then they can be there as a resource to other people while they're learning.
That was one of the biggest pieces I remember with the TLC migration was the staffing change. There's a lot of workflow changes. Granted, like we've already said, going from Dynex to TLC was a massive jump because you're going from a text base. Like everybody knew, like you just type N for this or whatever, like it's quick keyboard commands versus a point and click mouse system. So there's a lot of changes in workflows, and people getting used to things. You're still gonna have that, but it might be a little bit mitigated because you're not doing as much of a generational leap now, but still, I remember that being a massive piece. Like I spent hours and hours going around to different people's stations and doing installs and stuff like that. That's the other thing too, you won't have to install software, like that was a big piece of TLC as well, like you had to install it on each machine. So I ran around with that, I don't know how long that took me, but being a SaaS-based platform, you're not gonna have that, which saves some time and headache too.
I'm not sure if we didn't even have to bother with city IT with the switch over.
No, because you'd just be accessing it, I would assume through standard
Yeah.
web browser
Yeah, we would.
interface.
How many costs again to one to implement and then ongoing?
So $25,000 to implement. Ongoing,
So we have no hardware to purchase that. It's strictly
just software. Right now, we're paying 45,000. We would be paying, I think it's 27,000.
initially. Or is it
Like you.
yearly?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's TLC's 2025 compared to the consortium's 20. So what's the difference? $18,000. So there's an $18,000 difference in annual cost. And when we're with TLC, we are subject to the American exchange rate with CRC Dynamics.
TLC's an American company.
Yes. I think it's based out of Tennessee. So that is partly why we're suffering a bit with TLC is because we're paying American dollars, but they've also been continuously increasing the cost of the software. I mean, it did cost $45,000 3 years, but each year it's like it went up 10,000. It went up 10% last year. So if we were to be able to do the switch in a year and a half's time, it's 2 years, 2 years by it's already been itself switching. And we were with that system for 14 years, so presumably if we're with this next system for another 14 years, that's 12 years at 18,000. That's a lot of money.
That's gonna good your math with.
$1,500.
I knew you'd be in there. Any other comments?
I was surprised to see the OLC membership amount. Is that because they're running the server?
Running server, but it also helps pay for the staff.
And the staff are providing technical?
Yeah, so the consortium has a staff that is doing the tech support.
So is that a static number, or do you expect that to go up?
I expect that number to go up. It will, I think it's an annual cost.
Like there's a lot, the software license 19,000, membership 8,000.
Right. But it will be subject to the consortium, right? Like it might actually go down as well if more libraries join the consortium.
Oh, I
Yeah, in
suppose.
theory, if more join it should go down if you join.
Well,
not up.
this is my experience with consortiums. There was no membership fee, so I was somewhat taken aback to see the 8,000. However,
Yeah, but it's because they have a staff.
So if this license started in 2014 and you're joining in the 11th year, like what if you decide 2 years from now that this isn't your choice and you want to
If I didn't like it, and then we can RFP and then we're stuck with TLC or Polaris if it still exists, or like, there's not a lot of options out there.
But would you be able to retrieve your catalog records? And
We
things
would
that
be
you
able,
have
yeah,
uploaded
but we'd have to
there?
migrate, so.
Yeah, no, I know that, but you would be
We
able
wouldn't
to
li- we wouldn't-
recover your
Yeah, still own that data.
your portion of their database. I went through, well, I personally didn't, I was a partner with Demery Library and they went through, when I joined them, they were in Cersei, and then they switched to Evergreen. And that was a mistake. Open source software and the IT commitment on their part was unbelievable. So this is, if you're satisfied that Cersei is going to continue to upgrade their software over time, then it's not going to be the PLCs that you're just buying this product and that's what you're stuck with.
I think Cersei Dynamics has a larger client base,
Oh, they
Which-
do,
which
because they have a
means-
huge academic component, yeah.
which means that they have more available funds for research and
development.
development,
Mhm.
which means that they're going to be keep up with industry standards better than a smaller company. It's unfortunate that they haven't been able to keep up,
Yeah,
but I like the idea of possibly going on to the program calendar for the library, able to register
for an event,
for an
yeah,
event or
that's
for-
huge.
like baby time or book club. You can go on there and register because it actually connects to our patron database,
Mhm.
right? And that's something that TLC can't do, right? Those are things that we're looking at, being able to do that we can't currently do. So I think it gives us more opportunities.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
for me, that's what's attractive. I mean, of course, the financial aspect is, but it's modern, it's robust. It's the one we currently have is antiquated. It's not, they're not giving us anything new. So there's that whole customer experience that is gonna be a lot better as well.
And I think too, like from my point of view, I don't use it, obviously, I don't work there. And so if you guys have issue, that counts to, like, right? You're
But there are
saying it's-
public things too, right? It's the catalog.
Yes, and I do use the catalog
Yeah.
and that stuff, but I'm saying as a general rule, if you're saying the other one's old, antiquated, this is better, that counts for a lot, cause I don't know, right? So I would say whatever you want.
I was on the catalog today and I'm like, when is this going to get better?
It is terrible.
Yeah,
So
no, I
the
totally,
same
yeah. No,
Engine
that's right.
forever and like, yeah.
And if you use it on a phone.
The
you will
mobile
pitch your
experience is
phone-
awful.
Oh,
You
yes.
will pitch the phone through the brick wall.
Yeah.
It's painful.
Well, I was
Yeah.
downloading, well, for another topic, but downloading newspapers, records that I need to look up and trying to export it as a APA style, kind of citation style, and it's not there, it's, yeah, I have to do it record by record, oh my god, so.
And if I'm able to free up some software funding, I would like to start looking at some software for archiving material and having a separate database for that potentially.
Yeah,
So right now, there's quite a bit of archival material in the catalog. I think that actually makes it difficult to find certain
well, and
things.
the filters down the side are not necessarily. Pulling out newspaper records by themselves is not, doesn't always work, and
Yeah.
anyway, for records that I know are there, they don't come up in the filter, so that's another story. Yeah, no, I have,
And then we could use some of that savings for hardware, which we need to desperately update our desktop computers and internet station.
Caitlin mentioned at our finance committee that bringing up our internal server has a bunch of benefits too.
It does, so we could use a server to create an intranet
Yes.
and add other softwares. So we're also
Okay.
looking forward to doing something like that.
Book a program online.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
so Eugene, do you need approval from us or a motion?
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
motion.
Oh, you have a motion, perfect.
Okay.
but I'll read it anyway. Motion, whereas the cost of the library's current integrated library system contracted from the library consortium have continually, Library Corporation, TLC, have continually increased and are beyond sustainable levels. Whereas considerable savings can be had by switching to the Seriously Dynex ILS through the Ontario Library Consortium. Whereas TLC has unsatisfactorily provided software updates and technical support to the library. Be it resolved, the Sault Ste. Marie Public Library gives its approval to the Sault Ste. Marie Public Library to join the Ontario Library Consortium. Further, the Sault Ste. Marie Public Library switches its ILS from TLC to the consortium system, Cirrus Dynex, and migrates all its data to the system. Further, the Sault Ste. Marie Public Library may end its services with TLC once migration of the library data is complete. We're going to move it to some table.
Do we need to include something in here about actually foregoing the RFP process, or does that not have to be?
Let me put the motion on the table for it first, and then we can
Okay.
go there. Steve, move. Seconder, is there a seconder, Jamie? Okay, the motion's on the table. All right, now, do something.
Do we need to include in the motion that the board is electing to forego an RFP process?
Because isn't
To
that what you
procure
were
this
asking?
service, yeah.
That's what you're asking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think that needs to go in there somewhere.
Is it because of
okay.
the
To join the consortium and
and forego the,
Yeah.
For the
What's
RFP.
policy on RFPs? Like, are we
You-
making our own policy?
Yeah, we have our own policy on our fees, and if it's over a certain dollar amount, we're supposed to use our
Right.
process. I agree amending the motion to say and forego the,
but I don't know if we're actually foregoing or are we just opting, like, it should be in there somehow. But I'm not sure about the wording because we're opting to join the consortium to get this service or product.
Yeah.
Meaning we don't have to do the RFP process.
Now, I don't recall, sorry.
Go ahead, you're.
No, I was gonna say, I don't recall because I borrow from a lot of different policies when building my own policies. And I borrowed a lot from ours, when building purchasing policies. And I can't remember, do we have something in there about foregoing competitive purchasing practices if we are getting a discount via a group purchasing plan?
oh.
I can't remember if I borrowed that from here.
That sounds familiar to me too. I have to-
Rebecca, do you mind pulling up
You should put that.
from our website?
I honestly don't remember if I borrowed it from here or from someone else. Like, I'd say the last one I built, I actually borrowed it from here, so.
That may be a good point.
Now, granted, it's probably because I helped approve the one from here, so it's a stake of ownership in that, so.
I should have refamiliarized myself with that policy. I was more stuck on the spending limits in the RFP process, but
I think there's an escape quote.
yeah, there's always it's probably 201. Business.
oh, okay.
That's impressive.
I have a lot of things memorized, but not everything.
Good.
Can you just search the word consortium? See if
Store team, in my head, it was like, how did I phrase it? Something,
Oh.
you're very arranged by the Ontario Library Services or other libraries or library agencies.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
So we'll do it through cooperative purchases.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
So then,
Thank
so
you,
then we
Christina.
don't have to
No.
say anything.
Yeah, well,
Perfecto.
We'll use the cooperative purchasing clause in the
Very
policy
good.
rather than the RFP clause. Okay. Excellent.
moving on.
That was good.
All right,
Collective memory works really
so
well.
the motion's still on the table. I have a problem with the first line. The first whereas. I would like to stop after have continually increased. and are beyond sustainable levels.
Sure.
It's, to me, it's just, I don't know what that means.
Oh, it means that, you're increasing the price,
It's,
beyond our, like, 2%.
I know, I understand that, but I just,
Yeah, that's fine.
it's too big.
For me, I mean, we keep going to city and asking for like a cost of living increase, and it's usually been around 2% that we get. When they continuously
I'll then-
increase.
I'll then
above-
say that in whereas, the cost of maintaining the current system is beyond what we're capable of budgeting for. Something to that effect, where it's marked that much.
I think, I would be fine with just crossing out that line and just say have continual increase.
That's, I would stop there.
Yeah, because part of the increase is the American dollar that you're dealing with as well, so.
Do we even need any of the whereases? Can we not just be it resolved that we're joining a consortium? And like, is there a reason why, like, can we just,
Why do we have to explain?
Well, bad thing to do. I have a problem with the third whereas too, because TLC is unsatisfactory. And whereas TLC is unsatisfactory provided software update.
they
I
just
don't-
haven't
I
provided,
just don't like, yeah, I don't like.
Yeah, that's fair.
haven't
So,
kept up with,
what's-
technology.
You're welcome to start at be it resolved.
Okay. I'm hearing that from somebody in Lisa.
Yeah,
No,
that was
Aaron,
from
you
me.
said that. Just drop all the whereas and just
Yeah.
go with the
Well,
motion itself?
Yeah, I think we said, but I
We've done
agree,
enough rationale.
we don't need to explain why we want to.
We want
It doesn't matter,
Okay,
right? I
alright.
don't think it matters.
It's not like we're opting out of a contract or something.
Right, it's not like we have a contract where we have to explain why we want to
Okay.
pay.
So let's, I'm hearing the suggestion, all three of those items, lines be dropped, so that leaves it, would be resolved further and further. You're good with that?
Yeah.
On the table, follow, you're on.
On mute.
That's- He's not.
There it is.
Yep, sorry.
It's okay, I just, you're good with, the motion as stated, I just want to make sure that we get everybody involved here.
Right, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. In that case, there's no further debate, questions, comments, call the question. Any opposed to the motion?
You will be checking that with other,
I can,
Yeah.
I can do
Okay.
some references.
Okay.
This will give me approval to do it. If I find any red flags, then I'll bring it back.
okay, perfect.
That's understood. In that case, the motion is passed. Yeah. No, I didn't think so.
The big project is not as big as I feared, so
Yeah,
that's a positive.
We're gonna go in.
Thanks.
Resolve that the members of Susan Ray Public Library Board move into closed session pursuant to the Public Libraries Act, section 16.4. Closed meetings that the subject matter may be considered is personal matters about an identified individual and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the board. Further be it resolved that should the said closed session be adjourned, the board may reconvene in closed session to continue to discuss the same matter without need for further authorized resolution. Be it further resolved, the following individuals be permitted to attend. McDonald, Bruno, and Mover. Mike, Aaron, any opposed? The Aaron.